All right, let's get into it. Today, we're breaking down a really fascinating corporate strategy. You've got a company, RZLV, on one side, and a whole army of investors betting it's going to fail on the other. This is a story all about high-stakes finance, clever tech, and a perfectly laid logistical trap.
So let's frame the problem here. How do you, as a company, fight back when there are literally 14 million bets against you? Just think about that. That's 14 million shares out there that only make money if your company's stock price goes down. It's this constant heavy weight pushing you down.
But here's where it gets wild. What if I told you the solution to this massive multi-million share problem costs less than a new car? How is that even possible? How can such a tiny action counter such a huge force? Well, that's the mystery we're going to unravel right now. Okay, so to really get just how brilliant this strategy is, we first have to understand the battlefield. We need to see what RZLV is really up against. First things first, who are we talking about? Short sellers. Now, these aren't your typical investors who hope a company does well. Nope, their whole game is betting on failure. It's pretty simple. They borrow a stock, sell it, and then hope the price crashes so they can buy it back cheap and pocket the difference. And the scale of this pressure on RZLV is just staggering. Sources are estimating that there are up to 14 million shares being used to bet against the company. That's a massive wall of selling pressure pushing the stock price down, no matter what the company's actual performance looks like.
But RZLV isn't just taking this lying down. Oh no, they have an ace up their sleeve, what some are calling a crypto nuclear button. And yeah, it's designed to completely flip the script on these short sellers in a way they would never see coming.
So what is this weapon? It's actually pretty simple on the surface. Instead of paying out a normal cash dividend to its shareholders, RZLV can just give them something else it owns. In this case, a specific crypto token called SQD. This is called an in-kind dividend. And trust me, this little change in the details, it changes everything.
And this is the absolute key to the whole strategy. The power of this crypto dividend has almost nothing to do with its dollar value. It could be worth pennies, it doesn't matter. The real threat here is about creating a massive, and I mean massive, delivery problem for the very financial system the short sellers rely on. So how does this actually work? You're probably thinking, how can a simple dividend become a nightmare? Well, it all comes down to the plumbing of the financial world, and the fact that the pipes just weren't built to handle something like this.
All right, so here's where the trap snaps shut. A normal cash dividend? That's easy. A broker just moves some numbers from the short seller's account to the account of the person they borrowed the stock from. Simple. But with a crypto token dividend, the broker is legally on the hook to deliver the actual asset, the token itself. Not cash, the real thing.
And here's the kicker. They can't. This isn't Bitcoin or some other major crypto. We're talking about a niche token. Your big brokers, think Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood, they just don't have the specific digital wallets and the tech setup for this SQD network. And they can't just pay out the cash equivalent instead, because that opens them up to a legal minefield if that token's price suddenly goes to the moon.
So what does a broker do when they're faced with a task they literally cannot complete? They get rid of the task. They have no choice but to force the short sellers to close their positions. They issue mandatory buy-in notices, meaning all 14 million of those shares have to be bought back from the market before the dividend date hits. And that sudden, massive, forced buying frenzy, that, my friends, is a short squeeze, and it can send a stock's price absolutely soaring. Now, here's the most beautiful part of this whole thing. The amount needed to light this fuse is ridiculously small. We're talking a dividend of just 1/100th of a single SQD token per share, and that token is only worth about 4.5 cents. The value is almost zero. It's purely symbolic.
So let's do the math. What is the total cost for RZLV to unleash all of this chaos and potentially force a massive squeeze? $135,000. That's it. For a company of this size, that's not even a rounding error. It's basically the equivalent of them finding some loose change in their corporate couch cushions.
But wait, it gets even better. The genius here doesn't just stop with crushing the short sellers. This single move actually creates 2 more big wins for RZLV at the very same time. It's just a fantastic piece of strategy.
Win number 1 is that it's an incredible marketing move. See, to actually claim their tiny crypto dividend, all the company's shareholders would have to go to a special portal, which is built on RZLV's own technology. It's basically a forced product demo, a real-world stress test in front of their most important audience, their own investors.
And win number 2 hits the balance sheet directly. With all this attention and the potential for a massive squeeze, what do you think's going to happen to the price of that SQD token? It's probably going to go up. A lot. And guess who just so happens to own a giant pile of SQD tokens as a corporate asset? RZLV does. So they boost their stock price and pump the value of an asset they already own.
Okay, I know what you're probably thinking by now. This all sounds a little too clever. A little sneaky, maybe. The big question is this even legal?
Well, as it turns out, someone has already written the playbook for this. Back in 2019, the company Overstock did almost the exact same thing. They issued a special digital dividend, it triggered a huge squeeze, and you can bet they were challenged in court over it. But here's the thing, they won. The courts upheld their right to do it, which essentially set a legal precedent for RZLV to follow.
And RZLV is being pretty smart about its defense ahead of time, too. They're using very careful language, framing it as a community utility grant instead of a dividend. They can argue, hey, we're not trying to manipulate our stock. We're just following our own corporate policy to distribute these utility tokens to our community. It's a clever way to sidestep the accusations.
So when you step back and look at the big picture, this whole strategy kind of rewrites the rules. It shows that the power of a corporate action might not be its price tag, but its complexity. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? What other unique, hard-to-deliver assets are sitting on company balance sheets right now, just waiting to be weaponized in a similar way?